Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Israel Connection. I'm Esti Zenati, and I have a very special guest today, straight from Broadway. My guest is Ari Axelrod. He is a powerhouse Broadway performer and an advocate for the Jewish people in Israel. He was awarded the prestigious 36 to Watch Award by the Jewish Week as one of the 36 most influential Jews in America. His multi-award winning show, A Place for Us, a celebration of Jewish Broadway, has been performed to sold-out audiences around the world, including such historic venues as Westport Country Playhouse, Bay Street Theater, and Birdland Jazz Club. Ari, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's start from the very beginning. You were born and raised in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Yes, go blue.
Yes. So what was it like for you as a Jewish kid growing up there?
Looking back, I guess I would say I was raised during, we didn't know at the time, but now looking back was the golden age of American Jewry. So it wasn't hard. It was actually really great. I mean, Ann Arbor is where the University of Michigan is. It's very prestigious, historic public university. It's a Big Ten school, huge college town. There was Google headquarters there, a Pfizer headquarters there, Borders headquarters there, Domino's Pizza headquarters there.
Wow.
And like Ann Arbor and the University of it has a lot of history. You know, we have this performing arts space called Hill Auditorium, and at Hill Auditorium, people like Leonard Bernstein conducted, and Yo-Yo Ma played the cello, and Pavarotti sang. So it's a place where arts and science and culture it's really a hub for all of those things. And there's a huge Jewish population. I mean, there's, the Jewish population in like suburban Detroit is its own thing, which is also huge in West Bloomfield and Southfield and Royal Oak. But Ann Arbor has its own huge Jewish community. So we had, the Hillel on the U of M, we had a Chabad house, we had a Reform shul, a conservative shul, a Reconstructionist shul, and a Jewish Federation, a JCC, and a Hebrew Day School. So for me, there was so much available to the Jewish community. Strong ties to Israel. We have a sister city in the north of Israel, I think it's Nahalal is the sister city to Ann Arbor. And it was really easy to be Jewish in Ann Arbor growing up. I would say it was easier to be Jewish there than it is to be Jewish in New York now, which I never would say.
So what is it like now over there? Is there a difference between back then and now with the Jewish community?
Yeah, I don't live there anymore, but going off of what I hear from people who still live there, I mean, my parents still live there, but Ann Arbor is very, very progressive. University of Michigan encampments were huge. There was I don't remember if it was a shooting or a stabbing or a something that happened, or a car ramming, because there unfortunately have been so many all over the world, but there was one that happened in Ann Arbor. It was just so weird to see someone on the far left attacking a Jew in Ann Arbor, and then on the far right there are, pamphlets being passed around with, basically protocols of the Elders of Zion propaganda. So the community is getting hate from both the extreme left and the extreme right. And it's this really extremely progressive blue bubble in the middle of, Michigan, which went red in the 2024 election. So it's for a town that is so that has such an importance on culture and education, I don't know how safe it is to have an opinion that is different than what we're seeing from the extremist, what I call the alt-left. That being said, the Jewish community is very strong. And so I think I also think that there are probably some Jews who are anti-Zionist, who don't see any sort of issue with being Jewish in Ann Arbor today. It's also worth mentioning that, Rashida Tlaib is the congresswoman from Ann Arbor, not from Ann Arbor, excuse me, from Dearborn. Dearborn is about an hour away from.
Yeah, Dearborn is a whole other world, I feel like.
So to me, I see that as a powder keg that hasn't erupted yet, but is going to erupt.
It's inevitable. That's what's going on over there. It's really bad.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad. So, yeah.
So what was the first time for you that you personally experienced anti-Semitism or like a disregard by others to you as a Jew?
That's a really good question. What I'd call dinner party anti-Semitism, I think I probably experienced a lot in high school. But I don't think I clocked it at the time. But my first experience of real anti-Semitism that I remember was in college. And if we're viewing anti-Semitism as something like at the core of the anti-Semitic template, they're double standards, right? So things that apply to Jews that don't apply to other people, and vice versa. For me, I went to a university. I went to Webster Conservatory in St. Louis, Missouri. It was my freshman year, and I was getting a degree in musical theater. And it was the high holidays, and we didn't have. I was the only practicing Jew in the entire department. So we didn't have a Hillel. We didn't have there was no Jewish life on campus. And so in order to go to shul on the high holidays, I had to go to the Hillel and Wash U. And I got permission from the dean of the entire school of musical theater and dance. And while I was in services at Hillel during Unatan Tokef, I got a message on Facebook from my freshman year acting teacher who said, "Where are you?" And I said, "Well, I'm in synagogue. It's the high holidays, and I got an excused absence from your superior." And she said, "We will talk about this tomorrow." And in front of the entire class the next day, she said, "Clearly this needs to be addressed. We don't make exceptions for any religion, any purpose." And then, of course, we would have rehearsals on Saturday morning. We didn't have class on Christmas or Easter, but of course we had class on.
Yeah, why not?
And so that, to me, felt like I was being singled out for my religious practice. And what is institutionally allowed at the university level for Christians was not afforded to me as a Jew, even though I went through all of the necessary procedures to get an excused absence. And then, I mean, it became, we were watching, in order to learn a German dialect in our voice and speech class, we watched the first scene of Inglourious Bastards where, there are Jews hiding in the floorboards with the house in France, and the Nazis shoot the Jew. We watched that scene 4 times. We weren't pausing it to analyze it or discuss it. We just watched it. And then we watched Defiance, and then we watched Sophie's Choice. And, there were other offensive things that were said in these movies, and we had to cancel class and talk about how the N-word or the B word is offensive and the impact that language has. And I said, I'm sorry, the B word was said in a movie where Jews are being shot. Why are we talking about the volatility of language?
Yeah.
We're not talking about fascism, Nazism, whatever. So that was sort of that's what I would call, dinner party anti-Semitism that existed in a sort of pre 2016 political cycle. And then, of course, which sort of paved the way for Charlottesville and the Tree of Life shooting. And then from that point on, it's been different. And then, of course, after October 7th, it's a complete clusterfuck. I mean,
yeah,
that was the worst of it up until, I graduated college in 2016. So
what did that whole thing do to you personally, to your identity as a Jewish man?
It made me, unfortunately, I didn't have the tools at the time to be able to stand up for myself, to be able to recognize that the institution was wrong, because I didn't grow up in an environment where I had to fight to be Jewish. It was just so safe and easy to be Jewish. There was no anti-Semitism growing up.
Yeah.
None. So to then be in a place where all of a sudden things in my body felt like, that's not right, that's not fair, why is this happening? But then I would immediately second guess myself. I would immediately tell myself that I was making a mountain out of a molehill or seeing a problem where there wasn't one. And then I went on Birthright the winter of my senior year, and that was pivotal for me. That was the moment where I realized, oh, there's like the Judaism that I was raised in. There's like my Jewish identity, which was rooted in this is what you're taught to believe. And then going to Israel on that trip, it became very clear what my Jewish identity was on my terms, which was all about, I live in a time and in a place where I have the freedom and permission and the privilege and the rights to be able to be proudly Jewish. So I can live a Jewish life in a Jewish body, and there's agency that I have that my ancestors didn't have. So for me, going to Shul and standing and saying Kaddish or saying the Shema publicly in a congregation, I'm doing something that my ancestors were not able to do. So for me, it was about being the voice for the voiceless and doing it for the people who came before me, who did not have the same freedoms that I had. So once I went to Israel and I came back for my final semester senior year, I realized that voice of gaslighting myself or telling myself, invalidating my feelings that something was not right, that wasn't my voice. That was a voice that an assimilated America had instilled in me. The voice was basically saying, you can be the amount of Jewish that Gentiles deem acceptable, but as soon as you want to be any more Jewish, you will be deemed too much. So don't do that. And anytime I would say, hi, I know we're laughing about bagels and lox and Jews. I remember I was out for lunch with friends and in my department, and one of them said, "Oh, can you believe it? The server just tried to Jew me down." It's like, what? So that voice of and then wanting to laugh at, to make the joke first so that I dictate who laughs at me before. Anyway, we could laugh about things that were casually anti-Semitic. We could joke about bagels and Seinfeld, but as soon as I asked to call out of work to go to Shul or for a kosher meal, then all of a sudden I was too much. And I took that on. Then when I came back from Israel, I realized where that voice was coming from, that wasn't my voice.
Right.
And so then I started to speak using my voice, and I would say, this is wrong. If we don't have rehearsal on Good Friday, we then shouldn't have rehearsal on the first day of Pesach.
Yep.
We shouldn't do that. We're not going to watch Django Unchained because it's offensive to Black people. We then should also not watch Inglourious Bastards, that first scene, because it is offensive to me. And if we're going to watch Sophie's Choice, but then stop it because Kevin Kline says the N word, we shouldn't watch it at all, because to watch Sophie's Choice to learn a German dialect is foolish. You wouldn't do it for our one minority group. Why are you doing it for us?
Right.
I finally was able to speak, but because I let go of the voice of an assimilated America, and I took on the voice of my ancestors, and in doing that, I found my own voice.
That's incredible. You know, like as someone who grew up in Israel, I was born and raised in Israel. I lived there most of my life. You know, my family is still there. My experience as a Jewish person was very different because I was in a country that the majority are Jews. And coming to the US and then learning about the experiences of Jewish people in diaspora, it's like, wow, it's
Right.
eye-opening, because, I mean, you hear about all those things. And I guess in our lifetime, up until October 7th, we didn't hear a lot about anti-Semitism until I guess a couple of years before October 7th, actually.
Right.
But now you living here, you experience it, you see it. It's like,
there was a synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi that was just burned to the ground over the weekend.
Right.
And we have become so desensitized to anti-Semitic violence, to anti-Jewish violence, that news story didn't break the news cycle.
Right. It was only shared on Jewish outlets.
I mean, and in talking about, like, when you asked me the question, was the first moment of anti-Semitism I experienced. Looking back, I'm second guessing, like, was that really anti-Semitism? But yes, it was, because at the time, that was the anti-Semitism of the era.
Right.
Now, I look back, and if that happened today, I'd be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but that's how it starts, right? You know,
Correct.
It starts in smaller, like little subtle things, and then
Right.
it turns into what we see now, that people are getting murdered, synagogues are being burned down to the ground. Like, that's how it goes, unfortunately.
It's wild. It's really wild.
Yeah. So when did activism become a big part of your life? Because you're very active on social media, and you have a lot to say, of course. And I agree with a lot of things you say. I think it's great that you do that. People need to listen.
Yeah.
When did that start for you?
You know, I think it started in May of 2021. There was a sort of burst of conflict between Hamas and Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone was still, trapped in their homes. And that was the first time that, again, being in the Broadway community, which is so extremist progressive.
Yeah.
That was the first time that I saw white people from middle America, or white people who have no business talking about the Middle East. All of a sudden, they were posting things that were causing real harm in the outside world. They were posting things on social media that they didn't see the real world consequences, because they were posting things that had no impact on them. But what they were posting led to a Jewish man being beaten in the streets of Midtown Manhattan on 6th Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first time that I sort of started speaking. And then from there, it was, there was a tweet about Anne Frank having white privilege.
Oh.
I talked about that. Then Whoopi Goldberg said that the Holocaust was just white people fighting white people. She obviously didn't take into account anything about the Nuremberg laws that made the legal case from the Nazis that Jews were not white, but that their race was Jew. I posted about that. And then, of course, we had Kanye and all of that. And then in it must have been February of there was a revival of Parade happening, which is a musical about
I saw
Frank and the murder of Mary Fagan and the Leo Frank trial. And there was a group of white nationalist neo-Nazis who protested outside of the Bernard Jacobs Theater in Midtown Manhattan. And I organized sort of like a safe space group for Jews in the theater world to come together and just be in community with each other and talk about what happened and process it. And then following summer, there was a casting decision made on the national tour of Funny Girl, where the creative team had said they are looking for an actress of Jewish identity only. And then they ended up casting a Cuban American actress who was not Jewish. And I spoke on that. And that, I think, was really the beginning of finding a singular voice, sort of being the loudest voice in the Broadway community, talking about combating anti-Semitism. That was, I think, July of 2023. Fast forward 3 months, it's October 7th, and I remember people who were supportive of all of the anti-Semitism that I had called out from the right, because Kanye West's tweet, the neo-Nazis in Midtown Manhattan, that was far-right extremist anti-Semitism. The Pittsburgh shooting, the Charlottesville, all of that was from the right. So all of these people in the Broadway community were able to see that as anti-Semitism, offer their support, be supportive of my criticism of Whoopi Goldberg's choice of words, be critical of Kanye's tweet, of the casting decision in Funny Girl. And those same people posted images of paragliders on October 7th with "Long live the resistance, glory to the martyrs." And that's when something broke for me. That was sort of like, not to be crass or anything, but it sort of felt like our generation's sort of spiritual Kristallnacht, where whatever glass bubble we had been living in, we woke up and it was shattered. It was completely and utterly shattered, and it's not even worth picking up the pieces, because we realized that glass protection was protecting us from the real world. We were living in a utopia. This is the world. That was an exception to the world. This is the actual world, and we have to figure out how to live in it. But that was sort of my trajectory. And it has never felt difficult. It's never felt, and people are like, I commend you for your bravery in posting what you post. And I'm like, it's not brave, it's right. It's never felt hard or difficult or brave or like I'm risking something. It's just felt like this is the obvious thing. Just like I should be able to go to shul if you can go to church. Rehearsals shouldn't be on Saturday morning so that you can go to church on Sunday. We should have rehearsals on Sunday night. Jews should not be massacred. Babies should not be beheaded. Babies should not be taken hostage and then strangled after a month being held in a tunnel. That's not resistance. These are obvious things. Stating the obvious is not brave. It's not brave. The
Right.
second it becomes an act of bravery, we know we're fucked as a society.
But also, if we don't speak about this, who will?
No one will. Right.
That's the thing. So what do you make of those Broadway stars, the Jewish Broadway stars that are very anti-Israel, very anti-Zion, like this? And I can name a few people, but I don't know. One particular name comes to mind, and you named the play that he was on. So yes.
Yep. How do I feel about?
Yeah, like what do you make of that? Like how do you feel about this? And like why are they doing this? Like why? What's the point?
We'd have to ask them. I have my sort of hypothesis about how someone like Hannah Einbinder, for example, is Jewish and talks about Free Palestine and has said nothing about 12,000 Iranian people being massacred by the Islamic Republic over the past 48 hours. How do I think that's possible, that she can be Jewish and so blinded? I think that there's a difference between secular Judaism and assimilated Judaism. Secular Judaism is like a Jewish identity that doesn't have a connection to God necessarily, but is still a Jewish identity that is on your own terms. Assimilated Judaism is when the Jewish identity is rooted in making non-Jews comfortable.
Mm-hmm. I
think that we as Jews, as third, fourth generation Jews living in America, we have inherited an assimilated belief system. We have inherited this belief that America is different, that anti-Semitism is something that happened in the shtetls of Russia, and it happened to our great-grandparents, and it happened in Germany, but like it's done because look, America is America and everything's great. Dara Horn writes in her book, People Love Dead Jews, that we are told this story that our names were changed at Ellis Island, that there was like a miscommunication or a mispronunciation that would lead, Schwartzberg to be Smith.
Yeah.
Because the clerk misheard, but the people who worked that job did not have the bureaucratic or legal power to change someone's name. Their job was to read the ship manifest and compare it with the documents and say, yes, you're the same, please go. And in order to have that position, you had to be fluent in at least 3 languages, and Russian, German, Yiddish, Polish were not obscure languages. So there is no evidence that any Jewish name was changed at Ellis Island, none. But there are thousands upon thousands of pieces of court documents that prove that Jews changed their names in the court system because Schwartzman couldn't get a job, so they changed it to Black. So the reason that story exists is because it lets America off the hook. It's a story that our great-grandparents told us that it's just a mistake, but America is not the old country. What happened there doesn't happen here. But that's not the reality. America is just as guilty of the anti-Semitism that existed all throughout history as any other country. And I think that they haven't realized the assimilation that they've inherited. They haven't realized that their Jewish identity is rooted in making non-Jews comfortable. They haven't realized that there is a unique American Jewish struggle that came over here, that anti-Semitism didn't live over there. And I think that they don't realize that we need Israel. They don't think that anti-Semitism is a real threat of violence. They view it as an idea, an ideology that, again, ended in the shtetls and ended in the gas chambers, but is not here. But for Sephardic Jews, I don't know any anti-Zionist Sephardic Jews. None.
I'm Sephardic Jew, and I can,
They don't exist. They don't exist. Like I went to France with AJC and Lecliffe in May of last year, and the majority of French Jews are Sephardic, and they're like, we don't have an anti-Zionist Jewish problem in France. We don't have that problem because our parents were born in Algeria or Tunisia or Morocco, and we grew up with go bags at the front door, and now we're raising our children with go bags at the front door. American Jews don't have that lived experience. So for Sephardic Jews and Mizrahi Jews in the diaspora, anti-Semitism is a real threat of violence that is not 4 generations away and can be diluted over time. It's real. For Hannah Einbinder, for Ben Platt, for all of these other Jews on Broadway, for them, anti-Semitism is an idea that doesn't affect them. So they don't need Israel. They can look at Israel as, well, that's not us. Don't worry, non-Jews, we're not like that. Please.
Yeah, they got very comfortable.
Of course.
Yeah. And it's surprising to me, especially like Ben Platt, for example. He grew up in a family, like a very Jewish family with values and loving Israel. And, you know, I mean, we all know his brother and, you know, and there's just growing up in this family, in this environment most of his life. And then, you know, I mean, I feel like I know when things shifted for him, but I'm not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
But like, you know, it's just crazy to me that.
I've never met Ben, but I adore Jonah. I adore Henry. I want Mark and Julie to adopt me. I don't know what happened, and I can only imagine how the conversations that family must have. But what I think is really admirable is when Julie talked about her family on Jonah's podcast. Mm-hmm. She talks about how her love for her children supersedes everything else, which just speaks to how remarkable she is. But yeah, I'm curious to know the conversations that they've had. But I mean, that family has done so much for Israel, for American Jewry. It's really amazing what the Platts have done.
Yes. Right. That's why it's been a big surprise to me this whole time. Like, because I feel like in the beginning he wasn't talking much about October 7th, and then slowly Noah started talking about this, you know, and then he started as well. So I don't know. It's like a whole thing, but we're not going to get into conspiracies or, you know.
Sure.
So when did theater become a big thing for you in your life? Like, when was the moment that you were like, this is what I want to do?
It sort of was slow. It happened over time. My brother, when we were growing up, he's 2 years older than me. He was the actor. He got all the leading roles, and I played drums. That was my thing, and he got all the attention, and I hated that. And so I wanted to act as well, and then people would come and see me in the play. And then I sort of gave it up. This was like 2nd grade. I did a play, and then was like, this is not for me. And then in high school, I started doing it again. And then I was bullied a lot in my high school, and ended up skipping a lot of school, like a good portion of my junior and senior year of high school. I did not go, and instead I would drive around Ann Arbor in my car listening to Broadway songs, and I found the safety and security that I needed that I wasn't getting in these scripts and scores. And so what started as I want the attention my brother is getting ended up becoming something that I had a real deep love and passion and personal connection to. So I think in high school was really driving around in my car was where my love of theater on my terms really sort of that's where those roots were planted.
So when did you end up moving to New York and then becoming a part of Broadway? And what was that like for you in the beginning?
Yeah, I went to college for musical theater. I graduated in 2016. and I moved here in September of 2016, almost 10 years ago. It's just crazy.
Time flies.
It really does. I when I was in college, I had participated in something called the St. Louis Cabaret Conference. For me, cabaret is solo performance. It's the art of being yourself on purpose. And so I'm not playing a character. I'm just being myself, and I'm singing, Broadway songs and songs from the Great American Songbook. Not as the character from these Broadway shows, but I'm sort of recontextualizing them to fit my own narrative, my own life story. So I participated in the cabaret conference the summer after my junior and my senior year, and I fell really in love with that form of artistic, musical, and theatrical expression. And then I moved to New York, and I was auditioning for shows in theater and was working quite a bit, but I was also pursuing this sort of parallel career of solo performance, and that's sort of how my career as a professional in New York started, sort of doing both simultaneously, working parallel. And then after COVID, they converged, and I realized that it's I'm the same artist doing, whether I'm playing Perchik in Fiddler, or I'm singing Now I Have Everything as Perchik in Fiddler at a theater in Boston, or I'm singing Now I Have Everything as Ari. It's still the same vocal cords singing this song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to separate the two things. They can complement each other.
So, given all that experience, what led you to put together your show, A Place for Us? And how did you, what was the process like? How did you pick songs that would go in there?
So that also is a little unconventional. I had done my first show, which was called Taking the Wheel, which was, again, sort of about my life, I faced some health challenges in college, and sort of about surviving that and reclaiming my life and all of that. And the Eastern Michigan University Jewish Studies Department had come to New York, and they had asked me to speak on a panel.
Mm-hmm.
Did, and then the head of that department and I got to talking afterwards, and he said, have you ever thought about doing a show about the Jewish influence on Broadway? And because I had been, I had, whenever I would talk about musical theater, I was such a nerd about it. After spending all those hours driving around, I became really sort of, delightfully obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
It annoyed my classmates, so I would start talking about it in my, encyclopedic way, and it would annoy them and they'd leave the room. Or I would talk about Judaism, and it would annoy them and they would leave the room. So here is someone saying, you should do a show about the Jewish influence on musical theater. And I thought, no one would want to see that. People leave the room when I talk about these things. And he basically said, build the show, come to Eastern Michigan and do it. So it started out as sort of an academic lecture with music. There's this great documentary, Broadway musicals, A Jewish Legacy. And I sort of picked the composers that I felt sort of answered the question, what is Jewish Broadway? That could drill down to the core of that question, the deepest. Irving Berlin, the Gershwins, Leonard Bernstein, beginning,
all the greats,
and then figuring out, what songs of theirs do I love? What are some stories about them, anecdotes, history, Jewish, but also not. And that's how it started. And then I reached out to Jim Caruso at Birdland to book my other show, taking the wheel, which I had done a couple times in New York. And he said, you know, we just opened this new space called the Birdland Theater. You've done your other show a lot. Do you have anything else that you would like to do? And I said, well, I actually just built this show about, you know, Jewish Broadway. I didn't think he would want that at a jazz club. And he said, great. Here's January. So January 2019, we did it in New York for the first time. And now now 7 years later, we have done it in upwards of 20 different cities.
Wow.
All over the country, Canada. We recorded an album with a 13-piece orchestra, 19 tracks on the album. That's, you know, no one buys CDs anymore, but it is available on, you know, all streaming platforms if you want to listen. And it's changed as the world has changed. I mean, I did a performance of it on October 20-something, 2023. And I remember thinking, everything that I've written, everything that I've done up until now no longer applies. The first time we did the show at Eastern Michigan, it was 3 weeks before the Tree of Life shooting in Pittsburgh. And so we would sort of tweak, and maybe, you know, God Bless America might have felt different, or, you know, we'd switch out an up tempo for a ballad here and there and just move some things around structurally. But after October 7th happened, I said to my music director, we cannot start with Wonder of Wonders, Miracle of Miracles as the opening number.
Yeah.
So we switched and we started with Hatikva as a cello solo, and then I come on stage and I sing a song about struggling to find hope. And then Hatikva keeps coming in and out. And I said on stage that night, 2.5 weeks after October 7th, this whole show doesn't work anymore. So I've gutted the whole script, and now I'm making it up on the spot, and we'll see what happens. And I've had to continue to do the show in that way because, as we said, a synagogue was just burned down.
Yeah.
3 days. If that had happened in January of 2019, when I did the show at Birdland for the first time, that would have been the biggest news to hit the Jewish community. But now, again, it's already come and gone. So the show, every time I do it, has had to adapt to the world that we live in, and also to the community that I'm performing it in. I've performed it in communities where there was an anti-Semitic attack that happened in the building that I'm singing, or, you know, it's had to grow and change and evolve, and it's been really interesting. See how people react and respond to it in the world that we live in today.
Yeah, and I listened to some of the songs, and it was beautiful. So I hope more people, you know, get the CD or like download it on, you know, on all the other platforms, and it's really nice. And you have a remarkable voice.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So speaking of songs, what is like your favorite Jewish song to sing? Like your favorite song of all time?
Jewish song?
Jewish, or like written by a Jewish composer, or like, you know.
I really love Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I love it. I think it's one of the most perfect songs ever written. The way that the lyrics and the melody perfectly coincide. I just think it's...
Which version do you think is the best?
Oh,
there's so many.
You know, I think what Judy Garland did in the movie was pretty extraordinary. Pretty extraordinary. I think it was one of the most incredible performances of a song of all time. Karen Mason, there's a video of her singing it. I think it was at the Kennedy Center several years ago. What she and her music director, Chris Denny, were able to do with that song. She mined lyrics and made me hear them in ways I've never heard them before, of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. It was really extraordinary. I think everyone should listen to it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Mason, Over the Rainbow.
I think one of my favorite versions is, maybe a little corny, but Catherine McPhee.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. She did it on Idol, but she did it a few years later also after her voice matured more, and she's a much better singer, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, she's very talented and a big supporter of Israel.
Yes, I know. Her and her husband and the stepdaughters.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So we talked earlier about your first visit to Israel. What was it like for you there recently? I know you went on a visit after October 7th. What was it like then compared to the first time, or like just what was your experience like?
I went, well, I lived in Migdal HaEmek when I was 2, which I don't remember a lot.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, for like 6 months from my dad's death.
Okay.
And then I went on Birthright winter 2016, and then I staffed a Birthright trip in August of 2016, and I hadn't been back until I went with Chen Mazig and the Tel Aviv Institute in March of 2024. And then I went again with a group of storytellers and content creators just this past August 2025. When I went there in 2015, I realized my my connection to Israel was inextricably linked to my identity as a Jew. Like that was sort of the first time that I realized that for myself in my own way. Being back after the war, I was sitting at a table with a bunch of people from this conference in Yafo, and we were talking about the war. We were talking about the hostages at this volume, just talking about it. And I remember checking my Magen David and my hostage tag and looking at the door and making sure, like checking to see if anyone was coming in. And I realized, oh, I don't have to be afraid.
Yeah.
And it was the first time since October 7th that my body went, you're okay, you're safe. And it was the first time I realized that fear had been living right here for months until it went, you don't have to be afraid. Only then did I realize how sort of always present that fear had been just to exist as a Jew and talk about the war or being Jewish.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time that I realized we need this place. A world that celebrates the massacre of Jews without a Jewish state is not allowed. That's not a world that is
it's too dangerous.
It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
A world where fighter jets with the Magen David fly over Auschwitz, that's a world that I want to live in. So I think that was sort of the most impactful uh, moment on that trip, but then also going to Caesarea and standing on the ruins of the Roman Empire, being like, oh, wow, we are indigenous. I'm an indigenous person who lives in a diaspora. I'm not, and like,
Yeah.
I'm an American Jew, but I come from this place. And not only do I come from this place, I come from people who were here before the Roman Empire, and now here I am, 1,000 years after the Roman Empire fell. Wow, we are a strong, resilient people.
Mm-hmm.
And so those two realizations of we need Israel to be safe as Jews, and I'm an indigenous person that comes from this land, those are the realizations I had on that trip. I think what Israel felt like to me, and what I tried to impart on people when I came back, was it's still October 7th there. Until the hostages come home, it will continue to be October 7th. And I was able to go to Re'im and go to the Nova Festival and go to Kfar Aza and bear witness to the massacre. And I think there's a part of me that I will never get back that died at Kfar Aza. There's this piece of joy, this piece of hope, this glimmer that people are inherently good. That a little part of me, that innocence, died that day, and it changed me fundamentally. It changed me in a real way, and at the same time, I made it a point to walk from Hosted Square all the way up to Jaffa, and to just put my phone away and look around and see that even though there's this open wound, even though Israel was stuck on October 7th, people were surfing, people were out getting coffee, people were finding reasons to laugh, to dance, and that to me, I think was so much more important than anything else I had seen. Sort of like, I don't know who said this quote, but there's this impulse to, when someone is anti-Semitic, to take them to Auschwitz, take them to Tel Aviv, show them what we Jews have done to the world, what we have given the world, what we have built, what we made the desert bloom. Don't show an anti-Semite how other anti-Semites successfully murdered us.
I think Elon Gold said something like that.
Right. Yeah. Show them Tel Aviv. And that to me was really clear.
Yeah.
That day.
I think like one of the things about Israelis and Jews, I think in general, is that people, like throughout our history, people try to kill us and get rid of us. And no matter what they do to us, to our people, no matter how sad we get, because obviously you cannot be happy with all these things happen, but we don't let them kill our spirit. We continue and we push through until we can be happy again, until, but that's the thing that happens in Israel every time there's a war, throughout the past, I don't know, a few decades, when there's been war, that's what we do. Like, it's life. We have to live life for ourselves and for those who lost, who were lost.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's well said.
Thank you. When you went to Israel, did you get to see any like local theater performers?
Oh, I didn't. That's one thing I haven't been able to do on any of my trips there that I really want to do. I have a really good friend of mine who I met doing Fiddler on the Roof here in the States. Was an actor in Israel. He's been working nonstop for the past 6-8 months. His name is Ofer Gordon. Whenever I'm back, I'm gonna demand that Ofer takes me to see some some theater in Israel.
There's so many now. I think it's been a whole thing recently, like the past few months. They had Chicago and West Side Stories and Priscilla, the Queen of the Desert, and like so many. Now they're doing Funny Girl and The Ben's Visit, and it just So all of it in Hebrew.
Oh my God, that's perfect.
So that's incredible. I saw like years ago. I saw Spring Awakening in Hebrew. That was interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was interesting.
Really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it was a great cast also. So it was pretty cool. So I hope you can perform in Israel one day with your music or like doing a production.
I would love to. I'm sure we could make that happen. I'd love to do my show there at some point.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
There's a big audience for that over there. People appreciate the theater.
Good. It's good.
Yeah. So what is one thing that you wish the theater community here knew about Jews and Israelis?
The theater, Broadway was built by Jews. It was built by, the Gershwins, Irving Berlin, Oscar Hammerstein, Richard Rodgers, Florence Ziegfeld. It was built by Jews who were immigrants, and they came. Summer of the Rainbow was written by Yip Harburg and Harold Arlen. Yip Harburg's father was a cantor. Same with Kurt Weill. It's Jerry Herman, Sheldon Harnick, Jerry Bach, John Kander, Fred Ebb. They're all Jews, and they were themselves. They were the descendants of people who left Eastern Europe, came to New York, and were not allowed to buy property, not allowed to be members of the country clubs on Park Avenue. And so they built their own place to belong. They built Broadway. And so now all of these theaters, the Schoenfeld, the Schubert, the Niederlander, the Hammerstein Ballroom, you name it, these are Jewish names. These are institutions built by Jewish immigrants. I know that the people who wear keffiyehs when they go to work at Wicked, I know that they don't think that they're being anti-Semitic because for some reason they've been able to separate anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. What I would want to impart to them is all of the people that built the industry that you now profit from happened to arrive in America. They could have just as easily taken a different boat and gone to what we now call Israel. So Irving Berlin happened to land in New York, but there is an alternate reality where he went to the British Mandate of Palestine and became the greatest songwriter in Israeli history. And you would have a problem with him because he lived in Israel. So what I would impart on them is you actually cannot separate Zionism from Judaism. You can't do it.
No.
We pray facing Jerusalem. In the 1800s in Poland, you have Jews waving around a lulav. Those branches don't grow in Poland. Those are branches that grow in the land of Israel. So I would say there's a difference between Eretz Israel, Am Yisrael, Medinat Israel, and the Israeli government. Zionism is the belief that Am Yisrael has a claim to Eretz Israel. That's it. You can, by all means, have a problem with the state of Israel or the Israeli government. Fine. But that's not anti-Zionism. That is criticism, critique, nuanced takes on the Israeli government. Anti-Zionism seeks to erase Jewish history. It seeks to erase any indigeneity for the Jewish people to the land of Israel, from Am Yisrael to Eretz Israel. That is anti-Semitic. So when you wear a keffiyeh, you are supporting, and I try to tell people, like, the keffiyeh is not Palestinian. Yasser Arafat made it Palestinian, but it's not Palestinian. So when you wear a keffiyeh to work, you are telling your Jewish colleagues, I don't care about you. I align with the people who massacred you. I align with people who want you dead.
Yeah.
And not just Israelis, because again, there Am Yisrael, it's one. There's like diaspora Jews and Israeli Jews, and we do things differently, but we are all part of the same people. We come from the same place.
Right.
So that's what I would want to impart on them. You can't separate Zionism from Judaism, and when you scream free Palestine, you are doing the work of people who want to kill Jews. And not only Jews, they would kill you too. You queer, purple-haired people who would be thrown off of a rooftop in Gaza. That's not
queers for Palestine.
Yeah, chickens for KFC.
Yeah, that's like the biggest joke of the whole thing. Like
crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah. Well, where can people listen to your music, and where can they see you next?
You can follow me on Instagram. It's just at Ari Axelrod. You can download both my A Place for Us album as well as my Live at Birdland album, which was like, I did a show at Birdland and we recorded it live, just me and piano. Mm-hmm. You can listen to both of those on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Pandora, you name it, Amazon Music. Where you can see me next, I'll be in Boca at the Sandler Center, the JCC in Boca, on February 25th and 26th. And then again, I'll be back in New York on May something. I don't remember. At 50.
Go to the website. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's that.
And lastly, I was wondering, could you sing a little something from one of the songs you sing on your show?
Sure. You know what? Actually, I'll sing "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," which I don't sing in the show, but sure. Okay. When all the world is a hopeless jumble and the raindrops tumble all around, heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found, leading from your window pane to a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the rain. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been so
Ari,
great.
thank you. Thank you for being here. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me. The pleasure's all mine. Appreciate it.
And thank you all for listening. Until next time.